there, Christopher. How you doing tonight?
Really great. And things in California, I assume, are harmonious and very Libra-like.
Yeah, I mean, in Libra, you can totally find the tranquility. When it's in a big Pluto-Uranus square, you can also see the other side of the coin where it's a little crazy around these parts right now. And I think in every part for everybody, I don't think you can escape this when you're on this big round ball called Earth right now.
Very true. But we've also got a lot of action happening up in Scorpio, and then Mars is still finishing up its journey through Leo. So it does intensify the experience of this coming new moon, and the moon will be renewing the day that we are releasing this video. So happy new moon day to all of you people out there who are ready to break free and celebrate life.
Yeah, happy new moon. Here we are on Friday, just finishing up a new moon, and we still got the moon in Libra as we come into this weekend. But this new moon, it did oppose Uranus, it did square Pluto, and this new moon does have all this Scorpio energy with Mercury here and Saturn, and we're finishing up with Venus here, and we do have the node here. There is this intense energy of, looking for, a lot. I think we're searching for a lot. I think the searching with Scorpio is getting down to a feeling, a connection. It's a deep feeling that we're searching for in our lives to feel connected to. And this will be a month of, a lot of change, a lot of dynamic change, impacting change that you feel and that you might not resonate with it at first, but then you become resonated in it after you go through maybe the struggles or the overcoming of fears. It's intense.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it's kind of interesting watching how Saturn is expanding its influence as it continues to progress through Scorpio, because it was exactly at sextile to Pluto. Now it's moved just a little bit forward from that, but it is in fact exactly opposite Uranus, and so that is forming a T-square. And of course, we've been talking about this for what seems like forever, but this is definitely that final grinding down of the rough edges. It's the crafts person taking the power tool and finishing the sculptures. So a lot of people, I think, over the next week and a half are really going to feel like they've gone through a kind of a rough ride. It's been, very caustic, almost like after the refining, there's the acid bath that comes along and cleans up everything. So it has been a rough ride, I think, for a lot of people. But I think now, as we move more deeply into Libra, we'll see things lighten up a lot.
Yeah, I looked at the energy that brought all this in was a test of how well balanced you are in your life, how well your soul is vibrating on this planet. I mean, in a very deep way. I mean, it could really be that. I mean, how well is your reality, and is it in alignment correctly? And are your plans working out? And I think this is very emotional, right? Jupiter has gone very far, gone through most of Gemini and most of Cancer, all in a 7-month period, 6-month actually from right now. So this has been really intense emotionally for us all. As these feelings are coming up. A lot of that has to do with the Scorpio energy as well. And I think you're right. This week gives us finally a clearing in order to find that connection of what we really want in our lives, that connection of harmony, that connection of feeling the way we want to feel. So there's a lot of searching. I think this is a soul-searching week, to soul search, and to, especially when the sun starts to square Jupiter, even though a square can be difficult, the truth is Sun square Jupiter can almost bring very overly optimistic energy, and so I think this can be like a wow kind of a week, but I think you've got to pay attention to your feelings this week, big time, as we're starting to see Mercury conjunct Saturn in Scorpio. This is a lot of us understanding the workload that we're going to have to put in to find these emotional connections that we yearn for, these emotional desires we have. And Well, I'm sure I don't know if you've looked ahead, but Mercury is about to go retrograde, so it's at its shadow period right now. Just started that. So
Hmm.
we're slowing down our thoughts to really get very specifically deep into figuring out how to get this connection. And I think this is a connection of so many different things.
Well, one of the things that we'll be observing now that you mentioned that retrograde, which is on the horizon, it's about, I think, the 21st of this month. So we'll be seeing uh, Mercury go retrograde in that space of being in tension between Saturn and Venus. And that, of course, is going to have a connectivity to Mars. So this particular cycle of retrograde is going to be very stressful. And I would say that this next week is going to be somewhat low key. So this is a time to get all your affairs in order because you're not going to have the crazy making distractions that we've been having. You know, one of the things that I've noticed in the last 2 weeks is a lot of my clients and a lot of people I have dialogue with on a daily basis keep bringing up the Mercury retrograde thing. It's like, oh, did Mercury go retrograde because this happened or that happened? And as Mercury seems to be approaching Saturn, I'm noticing that it is in fact having kind of the effect of uh, what we experience when Mercury actually goes retrograde. So this coming Mercury retrograde may be doubly intense simply because of its proximity to Saturn and its interaction with Mars. So people should really put a lot of attention on getting all the detail work in their life done, make sure your banking statements are done, past due bills are paid, because when Mercury goes retrograde in a couple of weeks from now, we're going to feel a real double whammy with that, is my suspicion.
It's a very good suspicion you have there. And in many ways, when Mercury does come into Scorpio, suspicion is its best friend. I think that there is aspects of our lives that we might be suspicious of. And I'm not looking at it like detective freaked out, like, yo, I'm very suspicious of you. But I'm looking at it as, there's aspects of our lives we need to really get down and research. And when Mercury meets Saturn, it does not like to reach here because Saturn is a big stop sign half the time. And Mercury is, buzzing on the freeway, bzz, 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 changing lanes, and here it has to really stop and take a look deep inside of ourselves, the inner work that we must do. Scorpio is deep inner work. It's very private. This is very private information we're pulling up with. And I think it's interesting that this weekend we leave Venus in Scorpio and we move into Venus into Sagittarius. And so there will be this opening up that happens in feeling and in our even in relationships. I think this is going to be good for our relationships that have kind of been going through axe murderers. It's like, Mars squaring Venus, Venus having to reach Saturn. Poor Venus is that little Libra jumping the party. She's the socialite, and she's gone through a lot, She had to go to jail for a little bit. Now, she had the guy against her, and she's finally running out of this party, and woohoo, Sagittarius.
Well, yeah, that's very interesting that you're associating it with that because we also look as planets move into, the next sign, what that particular sign is associated with. And Sagittarius is the planet Jupiter. So we've got transiting Jupiter is in Cancer right now. It's an inconjunct. It's sitting over there offline with whatever happens with Saturn or whatever Saturn's doing in your personal chart. But once Venus moves into Sagittarius, it's going to kind of spark a lot of that Jupiterian energy. So Venus, when it gets into Sag, it's going to want to expand. It's going to want to get bigger. And it's going to want to come out of its corset, I guess you could say. The girl wants to get rid of the bra. She wants to run naked on the beach. And that's going to be the vibe for next week. And don't let society hold you back. If you have that impulse, go for it.
Yeah, I think if the impulse is very spiritual, Venus does square Neptune. So this can be what you think is a magical carpet ride and might not be. So you've got to like really kind of double check your gut, which Neptune, now that it's going retrograde and it's starting to station itself here in the next month as it's getting ready to go direct, you know, our intuition is really trying to work overtime here. And you know, this is a week where the moon passes over everything. It just did a new moon here on Thursday. Friday, it's finishing Libra. Saturday, Sunday, it's going over all the Scorpio energy, our ideas, the Saturn energy, and it passes over Venus, which is in the transition of moving from Scorpio into Sag. So I think we're really going to feel the Venus transition a lot. I think, especially as it's squaring Venus, the moon, on Tuesday, the 8th, square Neptune exactly as they're conjunct. And I think Tuesday is a pivotal day of, holy cow, there can be some really interesting things happening with relationships, with, you know, this new feeling inside, this new opening up. But I think you cannot be clouded in these opening up. I think you've got to listen to your gut correctly. You know, if it feels right spiritually, it's correct. If it almost feels so unreal and you don't feel like the spirit world would support it, I'd really not jump on that wagon right away.
Well, you know, I think that already is starting to come into play because personally for me today, I had this strong impulse to go the opposite direction of the direction I was headed. And I was being, you know, I'm in charge of my life and my destiny kind of bullshit. And I nuked myself by being headstrong about things. And I realized, oh, if I'd gone the other direction, things would have worked out a lot more harmoniously and I would have gotten slapped upside the head. So, yeah, that exact thing that you're describing is, in fact, already very subtly trying to manifest in our personal day-to-day lives. So it is going to be an interesting ride through this entire next week, and it is going to be one that demands that we pay attention to our dreams, to our intuitive flashes, and to other little signals. You know, a lot of people, they have animal totems, for instance, and if you notice a panther, let's say, as your totem, and if you notice a panther on television or something that's very compelling like that, where it really causes you to focus on whatever it is that you are associating this spiritual guide with, that's a strong indicator that messages are there. Pay attention, you know, check your email, whatever. But you do need to be mindful as we advance further and further into Libra.
This is very interesting subject you've cracked open here, because on the other side of the coin, this tests to make sure your value systems are ready to explore or be opened up as long as they are really on a spiritual path. You know, this can also be the last check with all of your relationships, because I'm going to be honest, once Venus starts to come in here to Sag, it's about to trine Uranus, and it's about to go through a really nice period here, you know. And I think in a relationship, you know, this is where you see, gosh, we don't have a true spiritual connection here. Like, I'm ready to go here. That's the thing. Venus and Sag is like, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here. But that Neptune in Pisces is like, hey, in order to get this magic carpet ride, like, you know, there has to be a spiritual connection here, folks. Like, there has to be, you know, you both need to see the same vision here. Like, you guys both need to get lost in the clouds together in the right way and journey together in the same place. And that, you know, if two souls are not vibrating on their highest vibration the same way, how are you both going to have tickets on the airplane to the correct location?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to end up in Zimbabwe in a rainstorm, you know. So you do want to get your vision of where you're headed on the same wavelength as your partner. But also what's interesting is as Venus advances into Sagittarius, as you mentioned, it is going to be in square to Neptune. It is going to be then trining Uranus. But it's also going to set off a grand trine with Mars, just simply by fire sign. So first we had the stress and the tension as Venus in Scorpio was squaring Mars in Leo. Now we're going to have a grand trine where these three energies, the Uranian factor with the masculine feminine factor, are all being juiced up with fire energy. So this could bring some very, very tormented moments into relationships that are causative moments, and they will ultimately force us to graduate from a lower level of what we're seeking in relationships to a higher level. And I think that's what the real outcome of this can be if you're really invested in refining your relationships.
Yeah, and all this is happening with the sun starting to square Jupiter. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting. I think there's some comfort levels to be expanded, and there's a lot of expansion that I think is trying to happen. I mean, Venus and the moon, you know, this week go through Sagittarius, all while the sun squares Jupiter, which is at its final degrees here of real true expansion. I think this is the universe really trying to expand us and our relationships, expand our comfort levels, expand a lot. And, you know, the sun, all it has to do is square Jupiter here, and then it gets out of its troubles. And finally, we get to see a Libra transit of, you know, that harmony space. So I think we can't, this Jupiter energy, and I think you triggered it correctly with how Venus is going to trigger it. I think that was like so smart, because that's what this really is, expanding, growing. We've just all been tested of whether or not how well you hold up in your reality spiritually. I mean, let's just call it that. I feel that way. It's like, how well are you? Like, you know, what's off here? Where are you unconscious in this area? How could you adjust your life better? And you know, this is also one of the final weeks here of Mars in Leo. So there's a lot on the line here for our hearts. There's a lot that we're ready to go, and I think it's kind of, you know, perfect that the universe would have Mars finish up in Leo as we come through a new moon. We have Venus coming to Sag. We are ready to open. We are ready to expand. We've all kind of gone on our hands and knees here and kind of, you know, really started to see what needs to change, and we get this last kick of Mars here in Leo to really blaze the fire with this fire grand trine you describe, with this reinvention of our values, with this plane ticket that we all want to take off in our lives. And you know, you got to check in with the spiritual gates and make sure that it's correct. You know, make sure that it's real nice. You know, make sure that it's beautiful and spiritual. Like, make sure that you're aiming correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and getting the needs of the soul prioritized, you know, because our soul is the part of our life that we often fail to honor, because we get so invested in that consumer mentality, the physical ego reality that we're doing our day-to-day lives in. And so those deeper levels of need and desire for union, desire for intimacy on a much, much more multi-leveled experience end up getting ignored. So this is when, again, the sun being in Libra as the airy, that part of the mind that likes to analyze and understand, likes to create balance. And then we got this beautiful trine going on in fire where our passions lie. And we've got the depths of all of this intense energy with this trine also by sign going on with Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio. So a lot of complexity as far as the inner journey over this next week. We're going to be feeling a lot of emotions. We're going to be feeling the tides coming in and going out, simply because that water element is really going to bring it up to the point where we have to stop and pay attention to it. It will drown the fire. It will drown our passion if we're not mindful of the passage that we're going through.
Yeah, and you have to be mindful of that because Saturn reaches 11 degrees this week, and this is where it went retrograde. It was the stationary position. So Saturn is about to exit the shadow period that it was in from February to now. I mean, that we're closing a huge door here and we're opening up a big new one. And with Saturn about to finally cross over this 11-degree mark, we're about to dig much deeper than we've all dug. And I think with Mercury exactly on this position of the node and Saturn for most of this week, this has to do about, like you said earlier at the beginning of this, getting everything together, getting your ducks in a row, figuring things out, starting to understand where the work is in your life, starting to slow down and pay attention to what you really, you really want, what you really desire. And, to pick yourself up, our attitudes need to change deeply. Mercury is a place of attitudes. When it's coming into Scorpio, it has to, go in the dark to learn how to find the light all over again. And our attitudes need to switch into this transformation inside of this destined moment. The Mercury transit over the North Node like this really, it forces you to reprogram your brain. And I think a lot of this is with this open feeling that's starting to come in our lives, that the only way to open up is to make sure that you're emotionally going there, that you're mentally going there, that you're tapping into a lot of that energy you just described with the water and the fire and the passion and the emotion and for you to listen to your gut. Whenever stuff hits Neptune, I think we really feel it the most. I think in the background of all this, that Neptune energy is so dissolved in our backgrounds, and especially that it's reaching this weird stationary position. You have to pay attention to your intuition more than anything, and no matter what happens, that's where your power is, and that's where your power is in your relationships now. That's where your power is in deciding in which direction that you take your life, especially as once Saturn crosses over this. I mean, we're about to come into some uncharted territory as we step into next week. I mean, we haven't been here in 30 years.
Exactly, and it's going to be kind of an exciting ride, I think, because, again, Saturn likes to teach. It is the great teacher, and Scorpio is that connection to the past. So we're going to learn things about our ancestors. We're going to be learning things about our motivational factors. Every one of us is this complex fusion of every person that we were biologically connected to. We've got remnants of their memories in our DNA. So you've got 10,000 ancestors on both sides of your family that have come to a pinnacle right here and right now within you. And as Saturn takes a step forward over that 11th degree, all that Scorpio stuff is going to come up. Ancestral memories will be a lot more available to us. We can learn a lot about what our motivations are, what our needs are, and we can actually speak to our ancestors through our own interior biology. This is, a lot of people talk about the Akashic records and that sort of thing. Well, we carry the Akashic records around with us, inside of us, in every cell of our body. And all of these components are going to be beautifully synergized this coming week. So it can be an expansive opening period for us, and really, very dynamic and very exciting as Saturn continues to press forward here.
You nailed it. It's an exciting ride. I mean, Saturn coming in this spot is a lot like the train at the top of the hill about to go in a place it hasn't. The train tracks are splitting into a place we haven't been yet, and this is exciting. I mean, but it can be scary, right? Scorpio is like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's underneath there. It's like, it's dark in there. You got to pull your flashlight out and start to dig in deeper. We're going deeper into the tunnel. This is Indiana Jones energy. We're looking for some artifacts here, like you described, ancient artifacts, Akashic record artifacts in ourself. This is an Indiana Jones journey into you, and it can be really exciting. Indiana Jones wants to dig as deep as he can go, and he's not afraid, and he remembers his philosophy. He remembers his occult knowledge, too. He even says that in number 1. But, it is this, this ancestry you talk about goes so deep, and it goes so deep into the essence of why you're here. I mean, that's really what Saturn is to me. It's very karmic. I think Saturn's one of the most karmic planets. You know, so Saturn also rules our teeth and it rules our bones. And the one thing that's left behind of human beings is our teeth and bones. And so that's the one place that really is, it stores in our nerves and our bones. Like when you have a root canal, you know, it's like, it's personal. And Saturn in Scorpio is hitting the most personal aspects of our life that nobody knows, because on this outside world, it's all fluff and it's all, oh, I went to work and I'm fine and went and had a shower today. But there is this deeper, so intense energy that people are going inside. And it's hard for the normal viewer of the world to see it. But for those who are aware and paying attention, you can start to read your friends. You can start to read your family. You can start to read the people around you, because this energy is connecting to the mass collective conscious. And it's you all, everybody connecting to your ancient records. And they're so connected with the consciousness that's been from then and before and in the future. And this is dealing with some of that stuff. I mean, it's not very cookie cutter like, oh, you're going to have a great Tuesday, you know? I mean, this is like, hey, you got a lot to look for here, and it's all embedded in yourself.
Exactly, and on Tuesday you may very well discover that you know, your life is paralleling the lives of ancestors that that you did not even know existed. You know, that's another aspect of what's going on now. We're seeing a lot of things revealed, and the veil is getting thinner, and that's of course what October is all about. The veil becomes thinner, and the people living on the other side of the veil cross over. So that's why we have jack-o'-lanterns on our porch at the end of October. There you go. Well, for the cards here.
Yeah, well, before that, we're going to have to do an October Halloween special, you and I.
Yes, absolutely. And we may even have some ghouls, ghouls, and goblins come in and terrify everybody who tunes into us on that special sacred day.
I like it.
There you go. Well, we start off with that new moon energy, and look at this. This is quite fascinating. We've got the Knight of Pentacles. Now, all this energy is focused in the air sign of Libra. We've got all of this activity going on in fire signs and in water signs. And this card is saying there's something very grounding, something a part of this earth, something that you can anchor yourself on that is going to be presented to you with this new moon. So it's fascinating how the one sign that is kind of left out of the spin is the one sign that the cards are telling us to put our attention on. The earth energy is where we're going to find our rewards and our empowerment during this new moon in the Aries sign of Libra. So that's going to be very, very interesting.
How interesting that Pluto is the one in the Earth sign that's connected to this new moon. So it must lie deep in the Pluto Capricorn.
Absolutely, yes. And that's our collective experience. So again, you know, as you and I were chatting earlier before we started recording, a lot is going on with the government right now, and there could be something that does actually apply to you as an individual that occurs with this new moon over that Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend, so that by Monday you're feeling like, oh, there was something here that turned out to be a reward. I was apprehensive, I was afraid, but look at this, I've got the goods. So then we move into the weekend. Nine of Pentacles, one of my favorite cards. This lady is standing in her garden enjoying the roses, surrounded by peacocks and serenity. So I think it's going to be a somewhat low-key weekend. I think people are going to be able to just enjoy the weekend. There will be a lot of internal shifting going on. But I don't think the exterior world is going to be real challenging over the weekend. I think you're going to be able to have a fun weekend and a very chill kind of weekend where you can get a lot of things done. Next week, we start off with a need for meditation, the Four of Swords. So Sunday night, Monday, you really want to, you know, make your anchor your spiritual identity and retreat to spirit periodically throughout this coming week, because again, got all this air energy going on. We've got all this fire energy going on. And you need to get deep within yourself and anchor yourself in your spiritual identity. Then midweek, the Empress. And of course, this is all about nurturing. It's fertility. This could be a very creative week for people because, again, as we see Venus move into Sagittarius, that is a spark of creativity. Sagittarius is higher learning. Sagittarius loves to be creative and inventive, and Venus also has similar desires and needs. So I think as Venus moves through Sagittarius this year, it is in fact going to release a creative urge for a lot of people. And finally, by next Friday, we have exiting the chrysalis. This is the death card, and the death card basically means that you are in that stage of transformation. You have gone from the worm, the caterpillar, you're in transition, and you will eventually emerge as a butterfly. So be patient with yourself and give yourself and your people around you a little bit of grace as we wind down the end of next week, because there is going to be the emergence of a new sense of purpose, direction, and intention as we move into next weekend.
That goes so well, you know, and we end the week with the moon coming into Capricorn and conjuncting Pluto. And I think it's funny we start the week with the sun squaring Pluto. So, you know, this is all about Pluto and Capricorn. I mean, I think your cards show that there's extreme changes in the structure of how your life works, of the plans that you're making with your life. I think all the cards you picked, especially that Nine of Pentacles, I always love her. She's actually super hot in a lot of decks. And, you know, she's a good-looking girl. And it feels, you know, that energy this weekend is, I think you're starting to kind of, and she's always like touching the flowers. I like how your card, like you can tell she's on top of things. She's connecting with nature, and she's connecting with the world around her. And I think it's so important this week to like kind of step into that, connect with your world, connect with that around you, find the beauty in your life, and really pay attention this week, because that meditation, that Four Swords you picked, goes so well with Venus squaring Neptune, on how, you know, pay attention, make sure the fantasy's really real, like, because if it feels it inside, you know, if it's overwhelming, like spirit's there and angels are guiding you into it, then you gotta go, and if it's not, you don't. And then we move into that Empress card, which goes so well with Venus kind of coming out of the square to Neptune and really starting to embark on its fire journey. And the Empress is empowering. And I think we become really empowered this week to get us prepared here for so much that's about to happen with, like we talked about, Saturn getting ready to come to 12 degrees and push us off into a new track in our life.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting week. It may not be a week where we're feeling, you know, 100%, like some weeks where we're, you know, fully present for our lives. But I think that once we arrive at the end of this coming week, we'll recognize that something profound has occurred. And it may not be immediately definable, but we are going to be carrying that shift with us as we advance toward Halloween and Thanksgiving and then Christmas and then the beginnings of another year. So this is a catalyst for the next 4 months for change, transformation, and advancement.
That's what this is, super change. I like it. I think it's killer. I think I kind of want to end on this note that I know it's been crazy. It's been crazy for people. I think you even described it well with some of the clients you've been having and clients I've had, but even just you can see it on the street. You can see it with your friend. You know, this is these are very intense times. I mean, what's happening in the government is definitely a nice play on what's happening spiritually up there in the heavens and happening in the adjustments happening here on this planet. And, you know, I think it's important for us to know that we're all here together. You know, it's why we do this show. It's why, you know, we'd love you to comment and to know that we're all in this, and that this is great, that we all in many ways kind of needed this kick in the butt, you know, for us to all get back into our real empowerment and to do something amazing on this planet, because, you know, I know my generation needs the kick in the butt probably more than most because we're going to be the ones here making stuff happen. And I'm glad that there are so many people awakening at all ages, because once we all band together and we change this place, we can make this the greatest place ever. And you know what? It does take a little bit of a kick in the kneecap, or I was going to say the balls, but to, to to get us to learn, you know, and to go for this. And these are those times, you know.
Yeah, they absolutely are. These are the best moments of our lives, and the lives of those who are our ancestors, and the lives of those who are coming ancestors. So we are timeless creatures, and we are all part of one greater organism. And if you just, you know, allow yourself to participate, to share the love and experience the love, then you're going to get through the ride, and you're going to probably come back and say, I want to go on that roller coaster again. That was fun.
Yeah, and this one's an intense coaster. This is the one where you look at it and go, huh? I'm really going to go on this one? And it's like, yeah, it's the one that's got the thrills. You know, I think we've all, as kids, gone to a theme park and been like, I'm never going to go on that ride. And then you actually go on it and you go, oh, I'm so glad I went on that ride.
I want to do it again.
Yeah. And I think we kind of step into that role. That Venus and Sag is going to feel nice. You know, we actually had Venus and Sag last time during December 21st during the holidays. So, you know, we're getting it a little early this time. And so it's going to be nice. It's going to be a nice feeling.
It absolutely is. And it's going to be fun watching the leaves come down from the trees. You know, it's a good autumn vibe going on out there. So if you can get out and join nature, then do it. And it was great chatting with you once again, David. I think we got some good ideas out there for people to toss around and dialogue about.
And that's the most important thing of this week. I think you nailed it. The last thing we should say is this Mercury, you know, on Saturn, on the node, getting ready to retrograde in the shadow period. You know, there's a lot to ponder. There's a lot to think about. Go deep inside yourself. Start to really look there. There's some really deep information there, and don't be afraid to dig deep. And it's good to ask questions, and Scorpio questions too. Get down to the point. Scorpio does not beat around the bush.
Yeah, get down to the bone. You got to suck on the bone in order to get real flavor out of life.
Yeah, the honey barbecue. So I like honey barbecue. Well, thank you, Chris. I can't wait to see you next week, and it was great talking to you.
Yeah, it's great chatting with you. You have a super week, and all of our viewers, you know, enjoy the ride. This is the best roller coaster around.
It is. Well, thanks, Chris. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
Good night.